Welcome, live stream viewers, and welcome to all my listeners. And one moment, because live stream viewers, I did not yet hit the record button. And if we do all of this and we don't record, there's nothing for me to send to my sound engineer to put this radio show on the air. So one moment while I get the recording going. There we go. Welcome to Change It Up Radio, here with Paula Shaw. And I am particularly excited today and so glad you're joining me because I will be interviewing somebody very special. She is an author, a screenwriter, and her name is Erin Shaw. And yes, you guessed it, she's my daughter. And she will be joining us in just a few minutes, so please stay with us. Those of you who follow Change It Up Radio know that I am an author myself. I am a life transitions coach. I also am the host of this podcast and radio show. And I work with people who are dealing with change in my private practice and in my books and in this show. I mean, change is really what it's all about, and hence the name Change It Up. Because if this pandemic has taught us nothing else, it has taught us that we need to be adaptable, flexible, and ready for change, because we never know if it's right around the corner. And sometimes we love the change that comes along, and sometimes it's just a lot of upheaval and creates discomfort for us, and it isn't so much fun. So before we go any further talking about change, I just want to remind everybody that if you would like to hear past shows or get information about being a guest or sponsor of this show, please go to changeitupradio.com. And if you want information about me or my work as a speaker, an author, life transition coach, you can get that information at paulashaw.com. So, all right, let's get back to what we were talking about with change, because I'd like to talk about change today from the perspective that change can be a catalyst for growth. And one of the reasons that it sometimes takes change to push us toward growth is because we like the familiar. We like what's comfortable. We like what we kind of know how to go with and how to do. And we like what we've done before. Now, we all know we can get bored to death if we don't have some change in our life. And we all know that not having change can leave us pretty dull and pretty stuck. But when it comes along, we don't always go, woohoo, new growth is on the way. No, sometimes it's like, no, or oh God, not again, or I don't want this. Oftentimes we are dragged kicking and screaming to our growth, aren't we? And unfortunately, the only reason we have that feeling is because it's the unknown. We don't know what's coming. If we knew for sure something better was coming, if we knew for sure life was going to be more expansive, more interesting, that the people in it were going to be people we'd rather be with, then we would go yippee when change comes along. But since most of the time we have no real idea where this is going to go and if it's going to be welcome or fun or not, then so often we do just end up facing change with a bit of dread, with trepidation, with like, oh man, what am I going to do now? And one of the things that I was thinking about that I thought we'd look at a little bit today is so many different areas of our lives have been changed by the current pandemic that we're all living through. There are people who've lost their jobs. There are people whose places of business can't operate the same way. Restaurants, for example. All of a sudden now, we've got to get creative and figure out how to serve people food and not have them in a crowded room with lots of tables. So I'm seeing parking lots that are being turned into dining rooms all over San Diego. I'm seeing takeout signs all over. Lots of places are delivering that didn't used to deliver before. So there's an area where this change that we couldn't all eat together in a crowded room anymore has become a catalyst for growth and innovation. I have to say, I've seen some of the most amazing creativity since COVID began that I can imagine. I mean, first of all, what about what they've been able to do on Zoom? If you didn't see the 7 million bambini or 7,000 or anyway, remember all the little Italian children singing Nessun Dorma? Oh my God, that was so amazing. And then other versions of that same kind of thing started coming along where people somehow figured out how to get all those children, all those faces on the screen. We've had, oh, remember the concert? I can't think of the name of it now. Maybe it was something like One World Live, but all of the performers that came together and everybody we saw was on Zoom. Everybody we saw was on some kind of a platform like we are on right now. In fact, this very show, some of you may remember that I always used to go into the radio studio, and sometimes I had my guest with me in the studio, and sometimes it was just a voice on the phone. But we always did the show there. And then when COVID started, we had to figure out how to have me record the show from home and then send it to the studio to be further enhanced and produced, adding the intros and the outros and the commercials and all of that. So, and I have to tell you, I was thinking about it this morning. I love doing the show this way because now you can see my guest no matter where they are in the world. Before, if they couldn't be in the studio, they were just a voice. So there's a change that's come that I really like. And it'll be interesting to see what do we do once the studio is available again. So there was a change. Many of us have had to change the way we're working out. You can't go to the gym and run on the running machine, you know, or do the elliptical anymore. And at least not at the present time. I used to love to go to classes. Well, now I get outside in the morning and I breathe fresh air and I walk up the hill by my house. And when I really feel like I need a class, because I can never think of enough ways to torture myself, you know, it just won't happen. But then I have a little app now called Varies, and I just dial in a class, stand up my phone, get out my weights or my bands or whatever I'm working with, and I'm in business. I'm working out still, but I'm doing it in a new way. So I think, you know, we need to look at, why do we sometimes need upheaval? Why do we need a change to entice us to grow? Well, I think it's for exactly the reason I was saying earlier. Sometimes we need to be kicked out of the nest, you know, we need to be nudged into trying something different. What about working from home? How many people had the thought, I could work from home? This job could be done from home, but companies were reluctant to change. This is the way we've always done it. And now everybody had to try working from home, and many companies have seen that that works just fine. And for a lot of people, this is great. Now, obviously, we know there are a lot of parents whose children are not able to go to school who've really had some serious juggling to do. And my heart is with you, because I raised two And I'm not sure I could ever have done my work when they were at home and they were playing. But people are figuring it out. People are taking it to the next level because they have to. And I think that that's the thing we need to keep in mind is, yeah, sometimes we do have to be dragged kicking and screaming to the next level. But the important thing is that we go there, because we sameness loving humans would just keep everything the same, left up to our own devices, because it's just easier. It's familiar. We don't have to work it out. We don't have to deal with the new problems. But what happens to us when we do? Something really incredible happens to us. We discover new areas within ourselves. We discover new skills. We discover new abilities. We discover new ways of thinking about something. We discover hope in a different way. We realize that life is not prefabbed and life is not cookie cutter. In fact, one of my favorite sayings is, life is curly. Don't try to make it straight. It's like, stop waiting for the storm to pass. Learn to dance in the rain. And I love that. But hey, we don't dance in the rain unless we have to. When we're pushed, we do. And that's really the theme of what we're going to be talking about today with my guest, author Erin Shaw, who also happens to be my daughter, because she did the classic situation in her own life of kind of taking lemons and making lemonade. But did it happen easily? Did it happen with no effort? No, it didn't. And that's the story that I'm looking forward to sharing with all of you in just a few moments when my daughter, the lovely Erin Shaw, joins us. So first, we are going to take just a little break here. And when we come back, we're going to be talking with the author of Have Baggage, Will Travel, Erin Shaw. All right, stay right there. We'll be right back. Okay, those of you who are Facebook live stream viewers know that we're not really going to a commercial break. I am going to bring this back right now, and I am going to introduce Erin. All right, here we go. Welcome back to Change It Up Radio, here with Paula Shaw. And I'm very delighted to tell you that in this segment, I am going to be interviewing and introducing you to a very special young woman. Her name is Erin Shaw. And let me tell you a little bit about Erin Shaw, other than that she's my daughter. She is the author of the critically acclaimed novel Party Girl, a modern fairy tale. That was her first novel, and which was loosely based on her experiences moving to New York City during the height of the 2008 recession. And being the creative person that she is, when there weren't a lot of jobs on Broadway, which is what she went there to do, she created her own business, dressing up as different princesses and entertaining children at birthday parties. She's worked in the media and publishing as a book and food and travel and lifestyle writer. She's currently living in Los Angeles, and her latest book is Have Baggage, Will Travel. And in addition to that, she is working on the screen adaptation of Party Girl with her writing partner, Caitlin McQuinn. Erin, please join us.
Hello.
Hello, dear. Good to see you.
Lovely intro. Thank you, Mother.
Well, you're so welcome. It's all true. And how fun.
Oh,
Did I say Caitlin's?
I wish I had a cool psychedelic background as well. Fortunately, you just have to look at my heater and then a painting of Venice, Italy.
I know. And what's funny is you actually helped me pick this out. You helped me figure
Yeah,
it out online.
I know. I should have ordered one for myself. What was I thinking?
So, Erin, we
Love it.
know that you had some experiences that led to the ultimate creation of Have Baggage Will Travel.
Yes.
A little bit about what went on.
Yeah. So, well, Have Baggage Will Travel is the second novel that I've written.
Mhm.
And you want me to tell you the inspiration behind it?
Sure.
Okay. So, about 7 years ago, I was 20, and I was kind of in that phase of life that some women experience, which is the classic always a bridesmaid, never a bride sort of experience,
Mhm.
where, my closest friends were all getting engaged and getting married. And at that time, I went through a really difficult breakup, which was for the best. And my ex and I are very close friends still, but it was not the right relationship at that time. And I was obviously heartbroken, just someone I loved very dearly. And that sort of grief was kind of compounded by sort of like every time I would see my friends, like somebody else had gotten engaged. And it was just like, I would find myself like crying in the bathroom at barbecues. And I was like, this doesn't seem healthy. Um,
I remember this well.
yeah, it wasn't great. But, as Nora Ephron once said, it's all material. So,
Right.
yeah, after like a kind of difficult year, I was in between jobs and I had this sort of like time off and I had money saved and I sort of just kind of could do anything I wanted with this particular summer. And so I packed up the dog and like packed up a few bags and got on the road and I went on this 2 month long road trip across the South.
Mhm.
The reason that I went to the South was I had been to a wedding that year with some friends who were from Texas. And at the wedding, I met all of these friends of theirs who were from Texas. And being me, the sort of like personable person who's always collecting friends, I had like 15 new besties by the end of this wedding weekend. And so, when I decided I wanted to travel that summer, I was thinking where I wanted to go, and I had never really been to the South much, and I wanted to go back. And well, I had been to New Orleans, and I love New Orleans, but I wanted to, go to Texas, and I wanted to go to Georgia, and I wanted to go to like Tennessee, and all these kinds of like. I had this image in my mind of like people sitting on their front porches, like sipping a Tom Collins, with this like Olympia
Or a
decoction.
nice tea, a sweet
Yeah,
tea.
this sort of just like lazy, like everyone kind of had this like I had half a Xanax with my breakfast sort of energy to them. Uh, so I just kind of got stuck on this idea of taking the Southern road trip, but it was sort of just like, ha, yeah, wouldn't that be fun? And
Yeah.
then I kind of just on a whim started emailing all of these friends of mine in the South. And I had, some family friends who were kind of scattered around too. And everybody, I just sort of, asked, could I crash on your couch, these 2 days in July? And I had sort of put a schedule together and like a map and everything, had a spreadsheet. And everyone said yes. And it was this sort of like miraculous thing where all of a sudden I had this trip available to me, and I got to travel with one of my best friends who was in school at SCAD at Savannah College of Art and Design at that time. So he came along with me for part of it, like flew to New Orleans, met me there, my friend Kaven, and we traveled around a little bit together. And then I did, kind of the rest of it on my own. So while I was traveling, I was finishing up writing Party Girl. So that was kind of the deal I made with myself, which was you can go away for the summer, but you have to, work on your book and like finish a draft of it. And when I finished Party Girl later that year, after I had moved to New Orleans, because I loved it so much that I was like, I'm going to move to New Orleans for a year and have an adventure. I ended up staying for 3. But as I was finishing editing Party Girl, I was just so exhausted of that story and exhausted of those characters. And I had fantasies of pushing them all onto the subway tracks and just like burning the whole thing. And I was like, all right, you need something else to work on. And so that was when I started kind of outlining this fictional story, sort of loosely based on the experience I had, kind of like taking this road trip to sort of rediscover myself as a single woman. And so that's where the inspiration for this came from.
Oh, let's see. Can you hold that a little closer to the camera so everybody can see it? I love the cover. Have baggage, will travel. And of
Yes.
course, the word baggage has more than one meaning there, doesn't it?
Yes. And I do have to shout out Chris Bicknell for the cover art and Chris Maroy for the back cover design, who two of my amazing graphic design friends, both named Chris. So get yourself a Chris if you need some design work done, because they're great at it.
Chris Maroy did the logo for this show.
That's right. I know, we're always hiring him because he's the best.
He is. He's wonderful. Yeah. So on this journey, I mean, I know you had fun and you visited friends. Did you have any kind of a goal, like an inner goal for what you hoped would happen to you personally on the trip? Or was it just, I got to get out of town and do something different?
It was a little bit of both. I think I had these sort of like lofty ideas of what this trip was going to be. I'm sure you remember, but your listeners don't know this, but I originally had this sort of like delusion of grandeur that I was going to write a memoir about this trip. And I was calling it Share the Road. And I had a blog set up and like a hashtag, excuse me. And I was just like, yes, I'm going to, procure all this wisdom on the road and share it with people. And then, eventually I realized, like, I don't think anyone gives a crap about the musings of like a 27-year-old girl who's sad about her breakup.
So suddenly figured out what life is for and what it's all about.
Yeah, it was like I was telling my friends I was staying with, like, oh, I'm writing this book. And they're like, what's your book about? And I was like kind of telling them, they were all like, oh, cool. Yeah. And I was like, all right. So yeah, it plays much better as fiction. But yeah, I think initially I've always been sort of like someone that tends to like to get away from my problems. I think it's my Gemini moon that I'm just like,
we'll blame it on that.
I'm very like,
certainly has nothing to do with your mother.
That's for another show. It's way too much to unpack. But yeah, I tend to want to like just get out of town. I have left town after numerous breakups in my life. So this was like an old standby play for me.
I know so far since you graduated from college, you've lived in New York City, back to Pasadena, then to New Orleans, and now LA.
Yeah, well, I wasn't in Pasadena. I was in West Hollywood.
No, but when you moved back in with us, we were in Pasadena at the time.
You were in San Diego. That was 2012.
Oh my God. Oh dear. All right, moving right along.
Moving on.
No. I'm thinking of when you came home after your first year in San Francisco.
After San Francisco. You're right.
That was before you graduated.
Then back to Pasadena, then to Orange County, then to New York City, then back to LA.
There we go.
Then to New Orleans, and now back to LA, and I'm never leaving ever again. Where I will die.
Well, I feel much better. For just a minute, I thought my 70th birthday was going to be more impactful than I had planned on.
And you look great, and that's all that matters. So, just kidding.
You know what? I'm going to have to ask you to hold this precious thought now that we finally got to it, because we're going to have to go to a little commercial break.
Sounds good.
But we will only be gone for we'll only be gone for a very short time. And then let's remember where we were. So you were about to tell us, you'll remember. Good. That's what happens when you're 35 and not 69. All right. We will be right back. Okay. So Facebook live stream viewers, we're not really leaving.
We're not going anywhere, Facebook. We are right here.
So we're just going to bring it back right now. And
I won't forget what I was going to say.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm going to trust my daughter to remember what she was going to say, because I don't.
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Let me remember. On the first segment, I forgot to hit my time clock.
Oh
And
boy.
I was in a moment of panic in the very beginning, but I think we came out okay. All right, here we go. Welcome back to Change It Up Radio, here with Paula Shaw and my very special guest today, Erin Shaw, my daughter, who is also a screenwriter and an author. And today we're talking about her latest book, Have Baggage, Will Travel. All right, dear. In our last segment, we were talking about your trip
Yeah.
and the reason you took it, the reason anybody ever wants to get away. So let's pick up right there.
Yeah, I think it was just a classic case of just sort of wanting to like escape my problems, but also kind of just wanting to be around um just new scenery and different people,
Mhm.
just to kind of have a little bit of a reset. I mean, so I have a sort of conflicting theory about this idea of like wherever you go, there you are. Because I think that there's kind of two sides to that coin. So the first side obviously is like you can't ditch your problems, like they're going to come with you wherever you go. But I do think that if you're in a state of angst or a state of grief, that sometimes a change of scenery or being around new people where you feel like you sort of have a bit of a clean slate can often help like boost your confidence and your self-esteem. And that can often be a catalyst towards your recovery, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, I think
So
it shifts the energy that you're in and what you're feeling.
yeah. So for me, it was like, I love all of my best friends, but being surrounded by tons of happy, like soon to be wed women with diamonds on their fingers was like not what I needed to be around in that time. And, you know, like no disrespect to them, but I needed a break from just that, like constantly talking about like centerpieces and flower arrangements and bridesmaids dresses. And it was just like, I couldn't deal.
Yeah.
You know, so now, you know, what's funny is now as a 35-year-old woman, I could care less because at that time in life, it was like, that was all I wanted was to like get married and have this beautiful, like Pinterest worthy wedding and like be a bride and like go to a bridal fitting. And, you know, that was so like, this was also when Pinterest first started. So like everybody was like making their Pinterest wedding boards and it was just this thing. And then it got to the point as I got older where I was like, well, I'd rather have a great relationship than just like a wedding. So it just seemed kind of trivial that I was so concerned about that. You know what I mean? But that's just, that's honestly, that's par for the course with growing and evolving as a human.
Every young woman goes through that.
Yeah, sure. So it was, yeah, it was just, I needed to be around something different. And also going out and traveling by myself sort of gave me this sort of feeling of having control and kind of having my power, you know,
Point.
when I had been feeling kind of powerless.
Mm-hmm.
So
And you did this trip with my little granddog, Wiki, right?
I did. Yeah.
Yes.
He's still kicking too. He's going to be 16 next week.
Wow. Oh, it's his birthday coming up. That's right. Oh, my goodness.
He's a little Leo, which makes so much sense because he's so into himself.
So
sorry, all of my Leo friends. I've been ragging on Leos a lot lately, and I've been getting like DMs for people that are like, rude. So I probably shouldn't. Sorry. I
personally really like Leos.
I
My
do
brother
too.
is a Leo. My niece is a Leo. I know lots of great Leos.
Yeah, they're great. Listen, I like people that like themselves. I like myself.
There
I
you
think
go.
there's probably Leo in my chart somewhere.
So tell me, once you got out there and you were actually seeing the South, and by the way, you traveled in the South at the worst time of year. It was summer and it was humid, right?
Yeah, it was really hot. It was really humid.
What was great about it for you?
The trip or the humidity? Because my hair was great.
Humidity is never good for any woman's hair.
Voice, that's true. Actually, my hair was not great, but my skin was killing it. And and my voice had never been clearer. I could sing all day long. It was wonderful.
Oh, I love it. Oh, I forgot to say that in your bio. Erin is actually a professional, amazing singer.
Thank you.
Yes, if I could get her to sing on this show, I would do it in a minute.
That's another time. That's when we unpack my childhood traumas. I'll sing then.
Yeah, that's the show I told you we're not having.
Yeah. So highlights of the trip. It was really cool to I don't know. I love to travel. I love to explore. I'm a huge adventurer. I'm someone who likes to plan things, but then I also like spontaneity within like a well-planned trip. Um, which I was discussing with Laura, my best friend, when we went to Utah last month, because we had a very explicit spreadsheet, not like sexually explicit, that sounded weird, very detailed spreadsheet
Detail, that's a better
of,
word, dear.
of like what we were going to do, where we were going to be, like who was bringing what. It was great. But then once we had all that taken care of, then we were able to like call audibles and like do whatever we wanted, sort of like within the confines. So that's like where I'm most happy and at home, is when I can sort of like plan things in a general sense and then sort of kind of have some wiggle room within there. So I loved just being in the car and like literally being able to drive anywhere I wanted. That was really cool. Mm-hmm. I wasn't beholden to anyone. I could literally spend the entire day, at a park if I wanted to, or at the beach, or I could just go and like sit in a bar. I did like a lot of day drinking on that trip, which was very Southern and it was really fun. I ended up, when I was in Dallas, I ended up seeing a friend of a friend, and she randomly was like, hey, I have an extra ticket to a John Mayer concert outside. Do you want to go? And I was like, yes. And so we ended up at like a John Mayer concert, which is crazy. I mean, that was something I never would have been able to plan for, Yeah. So just kind of being able to like do whatever I wanted and feel free. And, there were moments that were frustrating and difficult too. Like anytime you're traveling for an extended period of time, it can be stressful. But overall it was a blast. And I ate so many amazing things. I mean, oh my God. And that a lot of that is in here because I have written super extensively about a lot of places I love to eat in New Orleans and Savannah and Charleston, and Austin and Dallas and Santa Fe and all over. But there was a place I went in Savannah, Georgia called Mrs. Wilkes Dining Room. And this is a soul food restaurant where you go in and they feed you family style and you just pay like a flat rate for lunch. And they literally bring you out like every possible soul food dish you could ever think of, like mac and cheese, collard greens, mashed potatoes, sweet potatoes, fried chicken, catfish. Like it was just insane. And it was like I wanted to eat a little of everything. And, you left feeling so full, but also just like very satisfied and excited.
Well, I have to say to our listeners, in case you haven't figured it out already, Erin is a foodie and an excellent cook. So
thank you.
And you cannot read this book without getting hungry for these things. I literally, after one day of reading for a couple hours, took my first adventure with Postmates and ordered barbecue be delivered.
Yes, because I wrote about the Salt Lick in Austin, which is one of our favorite places for barbecue. Yeah, I know. And that's funny you say that because I can't tell you how many people texted me and were like, dude, I was so hungry reading your book. So yeah, trigger warning. If you're on a diet, maybe wait.
That's right. Yeah. Or only read after you've just had a meal.
Yeah, exactly. It's like grocery shopping hungry. Like, don't read my book hungry because you'll make some choices.
Erin, share with our listeners a little bit. What's the storyline? What's it basically about?
Well, you want me to read you the back cover?
Sure.
Okay, because that pretty much takes care of it. So I will say that this book is entirely fictional. So my first novel, Party Girl, was loosely based on a lot of experiences I had doing princess parties. So that was about like 45% all true. And then the rest of it was kind of just a fictional sort of love triangle story that I wove in there. This is entirely fictional. The only things that are real are the places I went, the restaurants, that kind of thing. But all the characters are very much not based on real people. So
got it.
Not a memoir. Sorry to disappoint anyone. But I will say that I do think that there's about 10 years worth of my experience with relationships in this story. Like it's very vulnerable. I was very eager to just kind of like wear my heart on my sleeve via this story. So there's a lot of discussion of like my thoughts and feelings and insights that I've learned through dating and relationships and stuff. So anyway, this is what the synopsis is.
Okay.
Kate Larabee is Los Angeles's leading travel expert under 35, and everything in her life is going according to plan. When her handsome lawyer boyfriend Charlie whisks her away for their anniversary weekend, Kate is sure he's going to propose. But when he breaks up with her instead, Kate's perfectly planned out life is thrown into immediate chaos. Yikes. Unsure of her next move, Kate travels home to Kansas City to see her family and recalibrate. It's there in her childhood bedroom that she finds a love letter diary she kept with her first love, Rob, the one that got away. Contained within the pages is the person Kate used to be, a free-spirited adventurer that she's lost over time and one she's eager to return to being. Armed with the diary in hand and a helpful nudge from her sympathetic editor, Kate hits the road on assignment for the magazine. As she makes her way across the country, stopping in places like Sedona, Santa Fe, Austin, New Orleans, and Savannah, Kate battles mosquitoes, humidity, and summer thunderstorms in search of the perfect fried Southern delicacy, but discovers so much more in the process. A fried shrimp po' boy should always be served with a cold Barks root beer. If you're going to reach out to the ex you haven't spoken to in a decade, make sure you have the right address. And for goodness sake, keep stirring the roux so it doesn't burn.
Oh, I love it. And perfect timing. We need to take a break right now. And when we come back, let's talk a little bit about what you're doing now. All right, we'll be right back.
Sounds good.
All right. And we're not really going anywhere. So we're about to be right back. If you're ready, dear.
I'm born ready, girl.
God knows. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Welcome back to Change It Up Radio here with Paula Shaw and my lovely daughter, Erin Shaw,
Hi.
author of Have Baggage, Will Travel, screenwriter and singer. She is a very creative being. And in our last segment, we were just talking about what is the storyline of this book, her latest book. So if you missed that, you need to come back and listen to this show. And by the way, you really need to get this book. I have to tell you, I couldn't put it down. And when I read the last page, I cried for two reasons. One, I was so proud of my daughter. Two, that I didn't want those characters not to be in my life anymore. I was so enjoying my daily experience with them. So I can't recommend highly enough that you do, after you finish listening to the show, of course, go out and order Erin's book, Have Baggage, Will Travel.
Thank you. What a glowing review. Well, I will say, if you're interested in purchasing this book, it is available on Amazon right now. And you can also find it by going directly to my website, which is erin-shaw.com or erin-shaw.com, depending on your preference of words there. So yeah, you can get it there. And it's just available in paperback for now. I'm hopeful to have a Kindle version maybe later in the year, but at this time I'm working on other things. So I'm taking a little bit of a break from this particular project.
So one of the things that did happen as a result of this trip was you kind of evolved. Well, actually, you decided to move to the South when you did actually take the trip, and you spent 3 years in New Orleans, was it?
Yeah, 3 years.
And during that time, tell us what you were doing there and how that's impacted your life now.
Yeah, well, firstly, New Orleans is one of my favorite places on earth, and I miss it all the time. It's just a nonstop party, and the people are so lovely. The food is so lovely. The scenery is so lovely. It was, I cannot tell you how fast 3 years went by living there, because there's just something, I mean, up until, we went into quarantine, there's something to do every weekend. There's always a festival. It's like, it's not just Jazz Fest or like, French Quarter Fest. It's like Po' Boy Fest or like Oyster Fest. And I'm like, yes, I definitely want to go to an entire festival about oysters. Sign me up. So there's something to do every weekend. And before you know it, like, a year's gone by.
And may I add a little story here?
Oh, sure.
Just a little personal story about New Orleans. When Erin first told me that she wanted to move to New Orleans, Katrina was still echoing in my ears. It had happened not that long before. And all I could think of is my daughter living in a city where they had hurricanes. So never being the mother that insisted that my daughter do her life my way, which I know would never get me anywhere anyway, um, I drove with her to New Orleans. And the trip was great. We had a lot of fun. And now we're going, what was that bridge we were crossing, honey, that goes like from one state into Louisiana?
Oh, there's a section of I-10. Is it not the twin span? I can't remember, but it's a section of I-10 that is between like Lafayette and Baton Rouge that's completely elevated and it goes over the swamps.
Yes. And so there's this flashing board up there that
The
flashes
Amber Alert board.
messages in lights, right? And it flashes warning, tropical storm, possible hurricane. And I was like, oh my God.
And I was like, yes.
Nightmare come true.
Oh,
And
I was
the
pumped.
only comfort was I was going to be there with her. But we literally spent our first day going to Target, remember, buying water, battery. We didn't even know what to buy. We just did what we've heard in the movies. We bought water and batteries and some kind of food, bars or something.
I was so excited. I could not wait. I was like, yes, that, you know, I don't know. I like weather. I like big weather. I grew up watching Twister. I wanted to be a storm chaser,
Yeah,
you know?
honey, I saw Katrina. That was beyond big weather.
Oh, yeah. I mean, but I don't think it was ever going to be that big. It was a tropical storm and then it ended up breaking up over the Gulf and it never even made landfall.
Right. Well, that's how it happened. I remember, thank God. But who knew as we were crossing the bridge what we were driving into?
Just life pulling you out of your comfort zone.
Which is exactly how we started this show, talking about that.
Yeah. So, what catalyst for change did that storm create in your life?
I bought some wellies. So I'm ready for any kind of rain now.
There you go.
Yeah. All right. So before we run out of time, this has flown by. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing these days and where you are and what are your dreams?
Yeah. Oh, wow. What are my dreams? Well, I'm back in LA and I finished this past year, I finished a screen adaptation of Party Girl with one of my best gal pals and writing partners, Caitlin McQuinn. We're so excited. We're sort of like shopping it around right now to producers and kind of getting feedback on that. So we would love for that to be made into like a Netflix movie, but you know, we'll see. That's our lofty dream. But
it will. It's great. It's a wonderful book.
Story. No, we had a couple of table reads in the fall last year with our friends because we have tons of actor friends, and Caitlin was here from New Orleans for a couple of months, and so we did a few workshops of it and have kind of perfected it. So we're in great shape with that. Our plans are to begin a screen adaptation of this soon, probably in the fall, and then we'll, you know, we're kind of just building our screenwriting portfolio. So that's been really fun. Caitlin's amazing. Check her out if you don't know her already. Caitlin McQuinn. I think her website's just caitlinmcquinn.com, but she's the best. And she's on Twitter. She's hilarious, like makes me belly laugh daily. One of my best friends. So it makes me so happy that I have a writing relationship with someone who I love so dearly on a personal level. So that's just been super exciting. And we're always really excited about our projects. Yeah, I also just finished writing a screenplay for a short film that is based on a short story that I wrote that I would love to produce at some point. We'll see. Just kind of, you know, I've had a lot of time to just do writing in quarantine. And that was one of the reasons that I wanted to release the book while we were in quarantine was I wanted people to have content. And also I just had all this time to kill, as we all have. And for me, I kind of have a hard time sitting still. Like I like having lazy periods and then I have very productive periods. My productivity is kind of bipolar, honestly. But yeah, just some days I'll be like, oh, I'm just going to write a screenplay today. And it's just, and then it's like, okay, that's done. And now I can watch a movie. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm up to right now. Yeah, just some freelance writing. I'm going to hopefully be teaching some writing workshops online for kids in the next year. That's something that I have planned.
I love that idea.
Yeah, that's in.
You forgot to say that you did work with children in New Orleans. You taught music to children. And that was a wonderful experience for you. So
There probably isn't a gig or job I haven't attempted at some point in my life.
you've never been a server in a restaurant.
I've been a hostess though.
Oh, all right. So you have been there.
Yeah.
Well, my darling, we are getting close to running out of time. So tell people if they want to get a hold of you or they want to get your book. We know you can get the book on Amazon.
Yes.
If they want to learn more about you, where can they get that information?
Yeah, my website again, it's Erin-Shaw, Erin-Shaw.com. I'm also on Twitter at Ms. Erin Shaw, MS in front of my name. Yeah, that's kind of where you can find me and everything that I have going on.
All right. Well, it was delightful, my darling, spending some time with you today. And I want to thank all our listeners and viewers. And remember, you can hear us on AM 1170 and 96.1 FM, The Answer in San Diego on Sunday evenings at 9. This show is on every major podcast platform, including iHeartRadio. And if you if you're looking for us and you can't remember any of what I just said, ask Alexa, ask Siri, they'll find us. Oh, and now we are also on a brand new podcast platform called Podopolo that does some really cool things with gaming and interacting with social media. So if you don't have the Podopolo app, download it today and get on Podopolo. I think you'll enjoy the fun of listening to your favorite podcasts from that platform. So thank you again, my darling one. I hope that you have a great rest of your day and weekend.
Thank you.
And I wish the same for all of you. And I look forward to seeing you next week. We will be talking to a man next week named Court Davies, who has been living with spinal cancer for 3 years. And he is doing amazing things with his life. He's also teaching meditation and mindfulness online. And in spite of his condition, he gets out and paddle boards and kayaks every day. The man is a wonder. He's also got a great TED Talk you might want to check out. But be with us next week when we have some time to meet and speak with Court Davies. All right. Take care, everybody. Stay safe. And thank you, darling. It was a great pleasure.
Thanks for having me.
All righty. Bye-bye. See you all soon.